Welcome back to the quarterfinals. This is Mathonical, and we will jump straight into this with our opening hand. It is a pretty good one. It's not the best, but we do have two lands, some ways of drawing extra cards, the Raven Inspector to combo with the Core Skyfisher, or just the Prophetic Prism and Alchemist Vial in general. So we go ahead and keep this. It doesn't have any interaction, so we're hoping we're not going against anything too aggressive. Seeing a snow-covered island, basically this is either Snow Go, which is not really played that often, or it is it Delver? Yeah. They play an Augur of Boros, and we're just going to continue with our game plan of getting down creatures, trying to draw cards. The Radiant Fountain is a good draw. We want to try and get to our fourth land really quickly to get the Palace Sentinels online before they get a lot of creatures to steal it back, so we do have the fourth land. We're going to be looking to do that. Here, I debated between the Prophetic Prism and Alchemist Vial, and ultimately ended on the Prophetic Prism. There's an argument to be said to get the Vial down and online in case we need to stop a blocker at some point in the future, or stop an attacker. But because they have a lot of open mana, we don't want to just run out the Sentinels. They may let it resolve and then play a Spellsetter Sprite to just steal it right back on 4 mana. We want to try and play it on 5, so that way we can keep it the Vial and stop any attack coming our way. Turns out they've also got just a lot of removal spells, and they're killing all of our guys. That's normally our plan, but we'll do our best to do that in the future. Now that we have our 4 mana plus 1 left over for the lightning bolts, we go ahead and play the Sentinels since they only have Spellstutter represented, and when they tap their mountain, they no longer have Spellstutter mana, so we go ahead and remove one of their creatures. They do take back the Monarch, but we're just hoping that the Palace Sentinel will resolve and we can take it right back. They end up having this Spellstutter play that I was mentioning a few turns ago, where they're just going to steal it. And then they do end up playing a Ninja, so it was in general a pretty bad turn for us, but our hand isn't giving us many other options. We're going to have to attack to get it back, and they do have the option of using the Spellstutter to stop us from getting it back, but they decide not to go with that plan. We're able to get our Core Skyfisher down and draw an additional card with Prophetic Prism. We could use the Glinthawk there and try and do that again, but we are looking to just use our clue and try and hold up mana in case we are able to draw a removal spell. We also need to make sure we're using the Alchemist Vial on the Ninja the Devourer because we do not want them to draw additional cards and to steal the Monarchy back. This Battle Screech is the kind of card we want, and the Lightning Bolt is a great draw off the top. Basically now we're playing this Screech because if they counter it, we now have the opportunity to Lightning Bolt and play the Glinthawk. So, all in all, it was not a bad turn for us. They don't have any way of removing both of our guys, so they can't attack. We get to keep the Monarch and continue to draw additional cards. The second Screech is exactly what we want off the top, because now we can cast it, flash it back, and get a ton of pressure down the board. They do have the Ninja, and they do have 1 red open, so there is the possibility here of them removing both of our guys. They do remove 1, and it turns out they don't remove the other one, so we just go ahead and jump block. Stops them from drawing 2 additional cards, so it's a pretty good trade for us. Alchemist Vial means we can stop an attacker in the future. We have our Rally, so we just kind of go for the win. Since they don't have any counter magic, it seems to work just fine. We do have to consider what happens if they've got like Spellstutter Sprites and they trade. What if they have a removal spell? But they don't have anything like that this game, so we go ahead and win. Jumping into game 2, we'll pull up the sideboard here. The Power Blasts, great cards here. Electrickeries as well. So we pull out the Palace Sentinels. They have a lot of flying creatures, which are easily able to steal back the Monarchy. We also take out 1 Prophetic Prism and 1 land. Since we are on the draw, we've lowered our curve quite a bit. The usual sideboarding plan. We also take out the Rally of the Peasants. Since we're expecting a lot of our creatures to be removed or countered, it's really hard to find a good opportunity to get this online. So there's a debate between whether to leave it in or not, and in Boros Monarch, a lot of us don't even run it at all. So after having shown it, I like to keep the fear in my opponent and then just not even have it. So we will jump into this one. Our opening hand, unfortunately this one is unkeepable, so we go ahead and jet that back. This one is quite risky since we don't have anything to combo with our core Skyfishers. One land, it is both colors, but we do have a removal spell and a Pyroblast, so it's better to keep this than to go to 5. Thraben Spectre is going to have to go to the bottom. We just need lands. And we are rewarded with a second land. Feels pretty good. At this point, they drop an Augur. We do have to remove it because we do not want them playing Ninja on the next turn when they attack with it. Since we really do not want them to Ninja when we are behind on land drops, we just want to try and remove anything if possible. We use the Journey there just because it's more mana efficient, and the Pyroblast can hit anything in their deck. The only thing we'd want to keep the Journey for is if we were worried about a Stormbound Geist. We use the Pyroblast on the Augur because, once again, we're playing around him or her having a Ninja of the Deep Hour, and if they get that online, it's really bad news for us. We're able to draw plenty of cards, and next turn we get to start dropping our core Skyfishers. So we've navigated to a pretty good spot. Extra removal is going to be useful. They at some point will play some creatures. So we go ahead and get as many of our creatures online as possible. They end up countering one of them, which is not the worst. We do end up playing the Secluded Step because since we have a lot of card draw, we want to make sure we are able to play as many things as possible. But now that we're flooding out pretty heavily, I do slightly regret having played the Secluded Step. We basically have no action going on right now. We stopped the Fairy Miscreant from attacking because we're still playing around the Ninja. We don't want to let that get online yet. We go for the Journey on the Stormbound Geist, but it turns out they have another counterspell. We go ahead and get rid of the Fairy Miscreant since that's a really good target for the Ninja of the Deep Hour we've been playing around. Having the Prismatic Strands is not very ideal here since we don't have any creatures to protect, so it's basically just going to turn into a glorified stop you from gaining a card if they do end up ninjing the ninjutsu. Unfortunately, we basically have no pressure. We've got nothing going on. We need to draw some string of our creatures like Core Skyfisher. That is perfect. We need to try and draw additional cards and continue a string of drawing action. Fortunately, that one ended pretty short by drawing a land. We're now going to be using this Prismatic Strands to try and protect our Core Skyfisher, since this is our only action at the moment. This will protect it twice over the long run. That's really good for us. They have the option to attack with their Stormbound Geist to upgrade it. They chose not to, which is perfectly reasonable. We do run out the Thraben Spectre, and as I was clicking it, I realized thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I should hold it back since they're representing Spell Stutter. I haven't really seen many of those. In this situation, it would be better to hold it and hold up a buffer of multiple cards, wait for them to do something to go lower in mana, or be able to try and cast multiples of these at once. But unfortunately, we were not paying enough attention, and we're just a little bit on autopilot there. Got to keep track of plays like that in the future. We're continuing to not draw the kind of action we need. A Galvanic Blast may come in handy, but since they now have the creature advantage and are drawing multiple cards, it's not looking too good. We just go ahead and cash in the blast, getting rid of their Spellstutter sprite so they have no way of returning to their hand with a ninja in the future. Unfortunately, our opponent's engines are all online. They're drawing plenty of cards, and eventually they're able to try and remove our creature. We cash in the last half of our Prismatic Strands, but this is going to allow them to get in for some damage, and if they have a ninja, it would mean that they're able to use it. We stop the Augur Boros from attacking simply because of the ninja value. We don't want them to get the additional draw card off the ninja and the Augur Boros. Drawing the Boros Garrison, while not great, does allow us to cycle our excluded step. And then we're just kind of hoping to string together a lot of Skyfishers, Glinthawks, Thraben Inspectors, anything to draw us cards and try and dig us back out of this hole we're in, since they're up 6 cards at the moment. Unfortunately, we're not having much luck at that this time. We would like to see one of our Sen's Enlistment to start cashing in these lands for a lot of creatures. The Gorilla Shaman is really good to know that our opponent has. It's not going to do much for them in this situation. They'll be able to blow up 2 of our lands, or 3 of our lands, and if they start spending 5 mana a turn, they can start blowing up some of our artifacts, but we're not too concerned about that. We're going to be looking to get rid of their Stormbound Geist with this, since we don't want to be taking a lot of damage. We do have to time it in such a way where we are able to do 4 damage with it. We're down to 3 artifacts now, so something to keep in mind. If we were to fire it off now, they'd be able to spend 5 mana to get rid of one of our 2 mana artifacts. And things are looking pretty grim. Electrickery does give us a little bit of hope. Unfortunately, the board state as it stands isn't that great for an Electrickery. I did have the option of letting the ninja attack and then blocking the ninja with the Thraben Inspector, trying to cash in the Electrickery and remove both of them, but it didn't seem like a great plan. Now that they have multiple ninjas online with the Stormbound Geist and Gorilla Shaman, it's not looking too good. We do bait out the Hydroblast with a Galvanic Blast, so now we can cash in Electrickery, so that's something that works out well for us. It means that we do get to resolve this Thraben Inspector. But they still have a ton of pressure on board, so we need to draw pretty well off this clue. Glinthawk is pretty good. It means we'll have another redraw for next turn. One of the Augurs. Here we're basically priced into blocking both of the ninjas if they attack with them. It's not a great plan, but we ended up changing our minds and letting one of the ninjas through just to keep to try and reduce the amount of damage we're taking in the long run. But now that they've played multiple Fairy Miscreants, we've already used one of our Electrickeries, things are not looking too good. Things have not been looking good for quite a while now, so we draw a few additional cards and we are essentially dead on board if they just attack with all. Turns out they do go with the attack with all plan. We want to see if they've got anything else that they're going to show us. They don't. We try and bolt. What do they have? They have another counterspell. Alright, so we lose that one. We will jump into game 3. Before we jump into this one, I was very distracted in this one, so there may be some punts. So essentially in this one, viewer discretion is advised. If you're really squeamish around some terrible plays, do be warned. You may have to pause, walk away, take a break, or you may just have to skip this one. I was debating long and hard about whether to put this one on or not. But for your enjoyment, we will go through the awesome terribleness of this game. Our opening hand is unkeepable. We send that one back. Our second hand is an extremely risky hand, but we do have some things we can play, so we will go ahead and keep it. On the top of our deck, Sen's Enlistment, absolutely not the card we want right now. We ship that back. So we go ahead and play a Thraben Inspector. We're hoping to draw a land, but we don't. And so right here is, I was just on autopilot. I'm just going to cast the Thraben Inspector. The best play here would have been to actually play the Glinthawk, bounce the land, replay the land, and then the Thraben Inspector, since we're not using our land drop anyways. We also know that they have a Gorilla Shaman, and they now have the ability to get a red source. So what happens if they play a Gorilla Shaman next turn to destroy our land? Not good things. So definitely was not thinking on that play. Was not considering the ability of the Gorilla Shaman until about here. When they put the island down, I was like, oh, I guess I don't have it. Turns out they do have it. We do not draw any lands, so we're feeling pretty bad about our turn 1 or turn 2 punt, not playing the Glint Hawk down, because that would at least give us some sort of pressure. Chances are that they have some kind of bolt to remove it, but things aren't looking too good. We do draw 1 mana. That is good for us, except now we've kind of bricked on multiple Glint Hawks, no way of getting artifacts down with them getting blown up, and now we're drawing a lot of 2-drops. So this one's going to be a fairly tough one to watch. Things may turn better if our opponent doesn't do anything, and we finally at some point draw some lands. We can hope that our opponent is on nothing but lands. And in the meantime, we're just going to kind of chip in for 1 damage a turn. We don't want to allow them to play a Ninja the Depower. So we're just going to keep 1 Thraben Inspector back on blocking duty for the Gorilla Shaman. Yeah. We didn't play the Thraben Inspector last turn because, once again, we're trying to play around Spell Stutter sprites, and since they have a lot of mana available and aren't playing anything, it's very likely that they have that kind of effect. They have no reason to play it ahead of time. We go ahead and discard instead of playing the Great Furnace, because if we play the Great Furnace, it's just going to get destroyed anyways. Discarding the Battle Screech actually gives us better opportunities to play it in the future. So, while we could just kind of run out the Thraben Inspector, it's not likely to resolve, and we kind of need it to resolve. So, while there are some alternative options we could take here, the options aren't very good. When we finally do play a spell, they're just willing to spell stutter anything, which means their hand is very likely great, and there isn't going to be much we can do about that, except hope somehow our opponent punts. But the turn 2 tempo swing against us was pretty bad, and since we didn't get our land drops early enough, things are not looking that great. I will let this continue to play out, but our opponent has this firmly locked up at this point. They have a lot of damage in the air. We don't have any flyers online. We don't have any way of playing our Glint Hawks unless they tap out. And the only realistic way we have of getting into this is drawing an Electricity, playing Thraben Inspector, and then they go for some kind of greedy, just get rid of the Thraben Inspector, and we're able to sweep the board with Electricity. But unfortunately, we still have not drawn that Electricity for our 1 out. We did play our Great Furnace there just because we knew we were going to be able to cash it in for the clue that we had on board. So it's basically like cycling it, since it wasn't going to get much value. There was the option of kind of keeping it on the field as long as possible, or like keeping it in hand for some opening down the road to be able to cast a Glint Hawk. We also have the option, or looking back, we had the option of using the Journey on the Shaman to be able to play the Great Furnace and then use the Glint Hawks to then be able to bounce the Great Furnace. But that seems like a really too long of a plan. We end up going with just playing the Journey on a Spell Stutter because at this point we're just kind of autopiloting, and the analysis we're having post game is a lot better than the gameplay you're watching. But yeah, basically takeaways from this game is if you're stuck on 1 Ancient Den, play Glint Hawks and bounce it, replay it since you're not losing in your land drops. At this point, we concede. There's no way of us winning. And then, yeah, going back to a couple turns ago, using the Journey on the Shaman would have allowed us to start playing at least some of these Glint Hawks to try and block some of the things in the air. Although they have 6 cards in hand, it was very likely no line we took was going to be able to win us out of that one. So, thank you very much for joining me on this series. I hope you enjoyed it and learned some things. I certainly did. And this has been Mathonical. Have yourselves a great day.